She said she was helping a friend through a divorce, but that friend had moved away months ago. So why was my wife still going to her house almost every night? Jenna said she was helping Marcy again. That's how it always started. A glass of wine in her hand, keys dangling from 2 fingers, already halfway out the door before I could ask when she'd be back. Marcy's not doing great, she'd say. You know how it is. She spirals. It became routine. Twice a week at first. Then 3. By November, it was almost daily. She'd leave after dinner and come home after midnight. Sometimes after 1 a.m. Always tired. Always just talking. I didn't question it, not at first. Marcy had been her best friend since college. The kind of friend who helped us move into this house, who brought over meals after our second kid, who once drove through a snowstorm just to babysit when I got food poisoning. So if Marcy was going through a messy divorce, yeah, I believed she needed Jenna. I believed it because I wanted to. But people say it's the little things that start to itch. That's not true. It's the absence of little things that begins to rot you from the inside. Jenna used to tell me everything. Not in some clingy oversharing way, just the natural flow of 2 people who liked each other. Her texts were usually scattered with thoughts from her day. A weird customer. A funny song. Something one of the kids said. Now it was just the same message every night, still at Marcy's. Don't wait up. The kids noticed too. Alex, our oldest, asked why Mom was always going to that house. Lily, who's 7, started crying one night when Jenna left and said, "Why doesn't Mommy love us anymore?" That one stuck with me. The thing is, I didn't suspect cheating. That wasn't the shape of the wound. What I felt was more like being left behind. Like the space she used to fill in our lives was fading without explanation. Even when she was home, she was distracted, drained. There was a distance in her eyes, and sometimes it felt like she was looking through us. I finally reached out to Marcy. I figured maybe I could help, or at least get a sense of how bad things were. It wasn't like we were strangers. She didn't pick up. I texted, waited a couple days, called again. Nothing. That's when I checked her Facebook profile and saw something odd. Her last post was from August. A photo of palm trees. Caption, New Beginnings. So long, Illinois. I stared at it for a long time. I clicked through a few comments. Apparently, Marcy had moved to Arizona to be near her sister after finalizing the divorce. Her place had been cleared out. She hadn't been in Illinois for nearly 2 months. I waited until Jenna got home that night. I asked her casually, "How's Marcy holding up?" She nodded, too quickly. "Still struggling. We watched some terrible movie tonight. Laughed about it." I said nothing. Just watched her as she walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, closed it again, and poured herself a glass of water like everything was fine. I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I drove past Marcy's house the next morning. It was still there, the blue shutters, the crooked mailbox. But something had changed. There was a smart lock on the door that hadn't been there before. The front porch had fresh paint, and a metal sign stuck in the lawn said, "Welcome to the Fox Den, now on Airbnb." I pulled over and sat for a minute, engine idling. What the hell was Jenna doing at that house? That same week, a fire broke out there. It wasn't big. No injuries. Just smoke damage and a report filed by the local fire department. But I only found out about it because my neighbor Carl, the quiet guy across the street, came over the next morning. He had a shovel in hand and dirt on his knees, like he just remembered something mid-task. He asked if we were okay. I told him yeah, and asked why. "Oh, just saw your wife's car over at that house on the wire," he said. "You know, the one with the guests. The Airbnb. Thought maybe you guys knew the folks who stayed there." I didn't respond right away. He scratched his cheek. I only noticed 'cause the fire truck blocked me in. That night, I watched Jenna as she tucked Lily into bed. Her voice was soft, her hands gentle. She kissed her forehead like nothing in the world had changed. But I couldn't stop thinking about that car. That fire. In the house on the wire. Jenna started waking up earlier. Before the kids. Before me. I'd find her in the kitchen sometimes, still in her robe, phone to her ear, whispering like she was ordering a hit. She'd hang up fast if I walked in. "Just Marcy," she'd say, smiling a little too easily. "She's falling apart again." I stopped asking questions. That wasn't defeat. That was strategy. When someone's lying to you, the worst thing you can do is push too hard, too fast. They get sharper, more careful. Right now, Jenna was still using muscle memory, running the same patterns she'd been using since the beginning. Patterns she forgot I already knew by heart. Take her scent, for instance. I know the perfume she wears when she's just running errands. It's floral, soft, forgettable. But the one she started wearing to these late-night Marcy visits was spicier, heavier. The kind you wear when you want someone to remember how close you were standing. And her outfits changed. Subtly. Tighter jeans. Blouses that looked careless but were definitely chosen. Once, I spotted a sliver of lace from under her coat. Not the kind she'd wear under sweatpants to watch movies on a couch with a friend crying through her divorce. I kept watching. Quietly. I started marking the time when she'd leave, when she'd return. She claimed she always drove straight to Marcy's and stayed there for hours. But I noticed her phone was never dead. She posted on Instagram one night, a blurry street lamp shot with the caption "City Haze." Only it wasn't from the suburb we live in. I reverse image searched the photo. It was a stock image. Taken in Brooklyn. Jenna wasn't stupid. But sometimes smart people underestimate the damage of tiny cracks. I still hadn't confronted her, not directly. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted the full shape of the truth. I didn't want accusations. I wanted proof. Something real. Something I couldn't be manipulated out of. So I did what I told myself I'd never do. I checked her phone. She left it in the bathroom while bathing Lily. I had maybe 3 minutes. I didn't waste time. The texts to Marcy were short, dry, nothing suspicious. Except the contact picture was gone. I tapped on the number. It was local, but not Marcy's old one. Not even close. I copied it down. Then I did something else. Something that felt wrong in a way that still crawls under my skin. I installed a GPS tracker in her car. It was a tiny black device that stuck under the dashboard, hidden in plain sight. I ordered it a week before and had been waiting for the right moment. That night, she left again. Said Marcy was having a breakdown. I smiled, nodded, and watched the little dot on my screen start to move. It didn't go to Marcy's old house. Not at first. It made a detour. She parked for 20 minutes in a strip mall parking lot 2 towns over. No shops were open except a 24-hour gym and a diner. Then she drove to the house on the wire. Stayed there for 2 hours. I sat in my car across the street, engine off, lights down, watching from a distance. I couldn't see inside. The blinds were drawn, and the porch light flickered like a heartbeat. Her car sat calmly in the driveway like it belonged there. At 12:47 a.m., she came out. Alone. Hair messy. Smudged eyeliner. She lit a cigarette, something I hadn't seen her do in years, and smoked it down to the filter like it was the only thing anchoring her. Then she drove home. The next morning, she was bright. Too bright. Pancakes for the kids, music on. She danced in the kitchen with Lily like we were some happy family from a frozen memory. I kissed her cheek when I left for work. She didn't flinch. That night, I checked the Airbnb listing for the house. It was still live. I made a burner account and booked a weekend. Just 3 days out. Under a fake name. Paid in cash. I didn't tell her. I didn't even tell myself what I was planning to find. But I felt something new clawing its way through me, not rage, not grief. Clarity. The night before the booking, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. No voicemail. Then, a text. Hey man, just want to confirm check-in time for Friday. You'll be the only guest that weekend. The calendar's blocked off otherwise. It was signed by James. I replied, pretending to be an eager tourist. James didn't reply again, but I had the name. I searched it. Too common to pin down. But when I searched the Airbnb host profile more closely, something flickered in the reviews. A mention of James and Jenna. Together. They were hosting couples. Weekend getaways. Romantic retreats. Together. Jenna had never said a word about running a rental property, let alone co-hosting with someone named James. When I asked her that night what her weekend plans were, she hesitated for just a second, barely long enough to notice. Probably just Marcy again, she said. She's having a rough stretch. I nodded. Makes sense. Then I booked a babysitter. Told Jenna I'd be working late Friday. She didn't ask questions. Friday came. I packed a small bag and drove out to the house at the edge of the neighborhood. Same crooked mailbox. Same flickering porch light. My hand shook when I took the key from the lockbox. Inside, it smelled like citrus and vanilla. Like her. There were 2 wine glasses on the table. A half-burned candle. Someone had been there recently. Maybe hours ago. I walked through slowly, room by room. In the bedroom, the sheets were rumpled. A silk robe hung on the back of the door. Not Jenna's usual color, but I recognized the brand. On the dresser, there was a photo frame face down. I picked it up. What I saw made my vision tunnel. Jenna, sitting beside a man I didn't know. Hands laced. Laughing. On the same couch that sat in this room. The timestamp in the corner? 2 weeks ago. I heard a car pull into the driveway, and then the front door opened. I didn't move. Not at first. The photo frame was still in my hand. Face up now, the image burned into my brain. Jenna, curled into some man's side, her legs draped casually over his lap like it was second nature. That kind of touch doesn't happen overnight. It's not exploratory. It's remembered. She looked happy. Not the way she looked at home. Not tired. Not stretched thin by motherhood and marital inertia. Her eyes were alight with something else. That other smile she used to wear around me, years ago, when we still existed as a singular idea. The front door clicked shut. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. I stepped into the hallway just as he turned the corner. Tall. Maybe 6'2". Lean. Early 40s, salt creeping into his temples. A runner's build, a confident posture. He looked at me like he was expecting someone else. "Can I help you?" he asked, blinking once. I was still holding the photo. He glanced at it, then back at me. Something flickered in his expression, not guilt. Something worse. Calculation. I didn't say my name. I didn't ask for his. I just nodded toward the living room. "You James?" He paused. "Depends who's asking. I'm the guy who booked the house." A pause. Through Airbnb. His stance shifted slightly. Right. Sorry, I didn't realize you were checking in this early. I'm supposed to be the only guest this weekend." "You are," he said quickly. "I was just dropping something off." "What kind of something?" He didn't answer, just offered a nonchalant shrug and stepped past me, heading into the kitchen like he lived there. Which, I guess, he did, or thought he did. "You with Jenna?" I asked flatly. He looked over his shoulder. "I managed the property with her." "That's not what I asked." His jaw flexed once. Then he smiled. The kind of smile men wear when they think they have the upper hand. "I think it's best if you enjoy your weekend, man. Beautiful house. Great neighborhood." He dropped a folded towel onto the counter, turned around, and walked toward the front door. He didn't look back. I let him leave. Because this wasn't about him. Not yet. After he drove off, I locked the door and stood in the silence. The house was too clean, too curated. There was no clutter, no signs of children, no echoes of real life. Just soft throw pillows and faux authentic decor. A place to play house, not live in one. I stayed the night. Not to spy. There was nothing left to overhear, but to feel what she'd built away from us. Away from me. I lay in the bed they shared, stared up at the ceiling fan, and wondered how many lies had unfolded here under low light and empty promises. The next morning, I checked out without a word. At home, Jenna was making breakfast like it was any other Saturday. Kids buzzing around her, Alex begging for more syrup, Lily asking if we could go to the park. She turned when she saw me. "You're back early." I smiled. Things wrapped up faster than I thought. She didn't press it. Her hands were shaking slightly as she poured the coffee. The rest of the weekend passed in a surreal blur. I watched her closer than ever, but not for clues. For habits. For slippages in her mask. Sunday night, I sat on the back porch after the kids went to bed. She joined me, brought 2 beers, cracked one open, handed it to me like she used to before things got quiet between us. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Just tired." She leaned into my shoulder. I let her. That was the worst part. The thing no one tells you. That even after the truth starts to drip into your mouth like acid, your body still remembers comfort. Still aches for closeness, even when it's built on rot. Monday came. She left again that night. "Marcy needs me," she said. "She's spiraling." Same words. Same cadence. Like a recording. After she left, I called the number saved as Marcy in her phone. No answer. So I texted, "Hey, thinking of you. Want to catch up sometime soon." A few seconds later, the message bounced. "Number not in service." I stared at the screen. Then I sent the message again. Same result. The number had been dead for at least a week. Maybe longer. I started to track her drives more closely. Every time she left, the GPS showed the same route. She'd park at that same strip mall for 20 or 30 minutes, then go to the house. But it wasn't just a rendezvous point. The pattern wasn't romantic, not really. There were gaps. Times she went and stayed only an hour. Times she left and drove elsewhere. Once, she parked by a lake on the edge of town. Sat there for 40 minutes. Did nothing. Just sat. I drove out there the next morning to see what was there. Nothing but still water and cattails. That's when something started to itch at me. This wasn't just an affair. Not anymore. There was a rhythm to her deception. A meticulousness. And something about it didn't feel like love or lust. It felt like ritual. That week, I started asking around. Quietly. Our neighbor Carl, the one who mentioned the fire, told me something I hadn't expected. "That house," he said, pointing with his coffee mug. "Always someone different pulling in. Cars, people. Weekends are the worst. Whole place turns over." "But Jen has been there for months, right?" I asked. "Helping her friend?" Carl blinked. "I've only seen her car maybe a half-dozen times. But that guy tall, skinny dude? Yeah, he's there all the time. Saw him bring in a mattress by himself one morning." I nodded slowly. "Huh." Carl leaned closer. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just curious." That night, I waited until Jenna was asleep. Then I went into her home office. She'd always been tidy, but not obsessive. Now her desk was spotless. Drawers organized. Nothing out of place. Except the manila folder tucked beneath the printer tray. It wasn't labeled. Inside were a series of documents. Rental agreements. Payment records. Notes written in Jenna's handwriting, schedules, supply orders, guest preferences. One sheet stood out. It was titled House Inventory, Reset Checklist. It had her signature at the bottom, alongside someone else's. James Calloway. I sat there for a long time, staring at the name. I knew the layout of their little world now, the contours of their secret life, but I still didn't understand why. Why this? Why the lie about Marcy? Why the half-burned candle? The staged photos? The gaps in her timeline? What were they hiding behind the affair? The next morning, I woke up early and drove back to the Airbnb. This time, I wasn't going to knock. I waited until James left, saw him through binoculars, tossing a bag of trash into the bin before getting into his car. Once he was gone, I used the same code from my weekend stay and let myself inside. I wasn't looking for intimacy this time. I was looking for answers. In the closet of the guest room, I found a second phone charger plugged in. In the laundry room, a box of women's clothes, not Jenna's size. And in the basement, tucked behind a false panel in the wall, I found a locked black case. Heavy. I didn't open it. Not yet. Because behind me, I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. And a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Do you even know what she's been doing here?" The voice behind me was female. Steady. Familiar in a way that knocked the breath sideways in my chest. I turned, and for a second, I couldn't place her. Then it hit me. Marcy. Thinner than I remembered. Paler. Her hair was shorter now, streaked with something close to gray, and her face had the drawn, hollow look of someone who had either been sick or hiding for a long time. Or both. She stood at the bottom of the basement stairs with one hand on the railing, like she wasn't sure whether to come further down or bolt back up. I didn't speak. Neither did she. The silence stretched between us, full of unspoken memories and all the lies Jenna had woven over the past few months. I glanced back at the black case. Still locked. Still heavy. Still humming with the kind of significance that made my skin itch. "How long have you been back?" I asked finally. Marcy didn't answer right away. She came down the last 2 steps slowly, her eyes moving past me toward the case, then the shelf beside it. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "Neither should I." She laughed at that, a short, dry sound that had nothing joyful in it. "Jenna told me you moved to Arizona. That was the plan. But you didn't." "I did. For 6 weeks. Then I came back." "Why?" She looked up at me, something sharp in her eyes. "Why do you think?" I wanted to say because of Jenna. Because of this place. Because something was broken in her life, and she came back to fix it. But none of that explained the way she was watching me now, wary, like I might be the threat here. "You still talk to her?" I asked. Marcy hesitated. "Sometimes." "Does she know you're in town?" "She doesn't know I'm here." That landed with weight. I looked around the basement, the half-stocked shelves, the faint smell of cedar and cleaning solution, the corner furnace ticking like a lazy metronome. "You stayed in this house?" I asked. Her eyes narrowed. "Not exactly." I was about to ask what that meant when she moved toward the case. Not cautiously, intimately. Like she'd done it before. Her fingers skimmed the handle, then paused. "You shouldn't have come down here," she said. "I booked the house." "No, you booked James." "That's different." "Is he dangerous?" She stared at me for a long beat. "Not in the way you think." "What's in the case?" She didn't answer. I stepped closer. "I need to know." Marcy shook her head. "If you open that, nothing in your life stays the same. Nothing in my life is the same." Jenna made sure of that. That seemed to get to her. Her mouth twitched. "Sympathy, maybe. Or guilt." "Then ask her," she said finally. "Not me. She won't tell me the truth." "She might," Marcy said softly. "If you ask the right way." I didn't respond. She took that as her cue. Walked past me, climbed the stairs, and disappeared. I didn't follow. I stood there with the case in front of me, the air still vibrating from what she hadn't said. I wanted to open it. I needed to. But something told me if I did, I'd never come back from what I'd find inside. So I left it. For now. That night, Jenna was already home by the time I got back. She was in the living room with the kids, helping Lily with homework while Alex played on the floor. She looked up, surprised to see me. The air shifted, not guilt, but the adjustment of a mask. Something in her eyes flicked off, replaced by the usual warm glow she wore for the children. "You're home early," she said. "Yeah. Things got canceled." "You okay?" "Tired," I said. "You?" She smiled, touched her neck. "Just glad to be home." The word home cracked something inside me. I sat down across from her and watched her work through Lily's math sheet like she was born for it. Patient. Calm. Every gesture said mother, wife, stability. And yet my mind kept flashing to the house, the case, Marcy's voice. After the kids were in bed, I poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to Jenna. She raised her brow. Wine on a Monday? We're off script, I said. She clinked her glass to mine, amused. To chaos, then. We drank. The silence stretched. Then I said, I saw Marcy today. That stopped her cold. A pause between breath and blink. Where? She didn't say. Jenna looked away, her jaw tightening. She's not well. Maybe. But she seemed clear enough. She shouldn't have come back. You knew. I had a feeling. She didn't ask what Marcy told me. That told me everything I needed to know. Jenna had already rehearsed her lines. Whatever version of the truth she thought I'd found, she had a defense for it. I let the silence hang. Why the lies, Jenna? I asked finally. Why keep using her name? She looked down at her glass, swirling it slowly. Because I knew you wouldn't understand the truth. Try me. She didn't. She just sipped her wine and stared out the window like the answer was somewhere in the night sky. The next morning, I checked the GPS again. Her car had moved at 4:12 a.m. Drove west. Parked for 30 minutes on a dead-end road near an abandoned industrial lot. I followed the trail later that afternoon. The lot was fenced off, but a side gate was broken. Inside, I found nothing, just a cracked concrete field. Weeds pushing through the crevices, the ghost of something old and forgotten. But I took photos anyway. Tracked tire marks. Watched for footprints. The house wasn't the only place she was going. That night, a storm rolled in. Jenna didn't leave. She stayed home, curled on the couch with a book and a blanket like she hadn't spent the past 4 months living a parallel life. I sat beside her and stared at the rain sliding down the windows. What are you doing with James? I asked quietly. She didn't look up, just turned a page. Managing a property. Is that all? She said nothing. Is it about money? Still silence. You've been driving to that abandoned lot by Route 6. That got her. Her eyes flicked up. Not scared. Not guilty. But angry. You're following me? You've been lying to me. I had my reasons. Then explained them. She shook her head, stood, left her wine on the table. I'm not doing this tonight. She walked upstairs. I didn't follow. Instead, I sat there until the storm passed, then went back to the house. I had to know. In the basement, the black case was still there. But now it was open. Empty. In its place was a note, written in Jenna's handwriting. Some things stay buried for a reason. Go home. Put this down. While you still can. That's when I realized there were tire tracks in the dirt outside the basement door. And fresh mud on the floor. Someone had been here. And they'd taken whatever Jenna didn't want me to find. But they hadn't taken everything. Because tucked behind the panel, half hidden, was something the size of a passport. I pulled it free. A small leather-bound journal. I opened it. And on the first page, in Jenna's looping script, was a single sentence. This started long before James. The weight of that sentence, this started long before James, hit like a breath I didn't know I was holding. It rewired the last 6 months of my life in an instant. All this time, I'd been looking at the fire, thinking it started with him. But she was telling me, in black ink and perfect cursive, that the match was already lit before he ever entered the room. I turned the page. The entries weren't dated, just titled. The first was called The Routine. There's something beautiful about patterns. When you're moving in rhythm with someone, cooking dinner, folding laundry, brushing teeth, it feels safe. Like you're alive in the same heartbeat. But patterns become cages. You start to forget who you were before you bent your life around someone else's needs. You vanish between meals and grocery lists. I vanished. I turned the next page, faster now. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I needed to feel visible again. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about love. It was about stepping outside the frame, watching myself move. James wasn't the first. He just stayed the longest. I sat down on the basement floor, cross-legged, while rain began again outside. Cold seeped into the concrete beneath me, but I didn't move. The house was never supposed to be real. Marcy helped me list it. She knew about the others. Not their names, just that I needed them. When she left, I didn't stop. I just made it cleaner. I cut her name into my lie like a thread, something easy to pull when the truth got tangled. I thought if I kept it tidy, if I managed the schedule, the check-ins, the laundering of sheets and guilt, no one would get hurt. The next entry was titled The Fire. He wasn't supposed to come that night. I'd blocked it off, left the door open for air. But someone was smoking in the alley. A guest. Not mine. James said he'd handle it. Said I should go. I did. And when I came back, the back wall was black and the fire report had already been filed. Carl saw my car. I knew that would start everything unraveling. I closed the journal for a moment, my hands shaking. That was the night the neighbor mentioned her car. That was the night I thought it all began. It wasn't the beginning. It was the slip. The unraveling. There was more, but I heard something above me, a floorboard creaking. Not the natural kind. I stood and slipped the journal under my coat, made my way out the basement door and around the side of the house, and froze. Jenna's car was parked in the driveway, still running. She was standing on the porch, arms crossed, soaking in rain, waiting for me. When she saw me, she didn't move, just stared. "You opened it," she said. "I didn't take anything. But you read it. Enough." She walked down the steps, slowly, heels tapping against wet concrete. "You weren't supposed to find that. Then you should have hidden it better." We stood under the soft yellow porch light. Her mascara had begun to smudge in the rain, but she didn't wipe it. She looked exhausted, not just tired, but frayed. "Was it all fake?" I asked. "Everything you told me?" "No," she said immediately. "Not all of it." "Then tell me what was real." She looked at me like she wanted to, like the words were there, pounding at the back of her teeth. Instead, she asked, "Did you talk to Marcy?" "She found me. She always did have bad timing. I think she was trying to protect you." Jenna flinched. "From James?" I asked. "Or from what you were becoming?" "You don't get it," she said. "He didn't change me. He just saw me. That house, it's not a love nest. It's a vault. It's where I kept the parts of myself you didn't want." "I didn't want." I laughed. "Jenna, I would have taken anything. You just stopped offering. Because you wanted a wife. A mother. Not me." I stepped closer. "Then who are you?" She didn't answer. That silence was the worst part. Worse than any confession. It told me that whatever version of her I loved, it was already gone. I pulled the journal from my coat and held it out. She stared at it. Didn't reach. "You left it for me." "No," she said. "I left it for whoever came after." That landed like a fist. "You planning to disappear?" "I was planning to choose. But you made it easier." Lightning cracked above us. The storm was growing louder. She finally took the journal and tucked it under her coat, like something sacred. "You're not the victim here," she said quietly. "Then what am?" She stepped backward toward her car. "Collateral." That word. It didn't come from nowhere. It had a weight. A history. I took one step forward. "What does James have on you?" Her eyes darkened. "More than you do." "Are you scared of him?" She hesitated. That was all I needed. I turned toward my car, but she shouted, "Don't go back there." "Why?" She ran after me, gripped my arm. "Because he's not done with it." "With me." "That house, it was never just mine. I started it. But he built something else." I stared at her. "What do you mean, something else?" She let go of my arm. "Ask Marcy," she said. "She stayed longer than she told you." She got in her car and drove off. I stood in the rain, drenched and vibrating with questions I didn't have language for. Back home, the house was dark. I checked the kids, still asleep. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called Marcy at 2:17 a.m. She picked up on the second ring. "I need to see you," I said. She sighed. "It's late." I think Jen is in danger. Or she thinks she is. Where are you? Home. Stay there, she said. I'll come to you. She arrived 20 minutes later. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Hoodie and jeans. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. We sat at the kitchen table while the house stayed still around us. She told me you stayed in the house, I said. Longer than 6 weeks. Marcy looked down. Nodded. I lived there for 2 months before I left for Arizona. The first few weeks, it was just us. We were experimenting with escape. She said she needed to feel outside herself. I understood that. And James, he came later, found the listing, offered to help, said he had experience running boutique rentals. Jenna let him in. And Marcy exhaled slowly. The first guests weren't just couples. Some were different. He started taking cash bookings off platform. Said it was more discreet. Discreet how? No names. No IDs. No receipts. I stared at her. You're telling me that house has been used for something criminal? I don't know what it became. I left when I found the door in the basement. What door? The one you didn't open. My blood ran cold. I thought it was just a panel. It is, she said. Until you unlock it. We sat in silence. Then she said, you have to end this. How? She reached into her bag and slid a flash drive across the table. Everything I saved. Before I ran. What's on it? Video. Messages. Names. Enough. Why didn't you go to the police? Because I'm in some of them, she said softly. We both are. I stared at the drive. The quiet hum of the fridge behind me was the only sound. Does Jenna know? She thinks she's protecting you, Marcy said. But she's really just trying to outrun herself. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the sun rise from the porch, flash drive in hand, and the quiet certainty that whatever was on it would end my marriage. And maybe more. Sunlight didn't warm anything that morning. It just laid everything bare, the peeling paint on the porch rail, the cracks in the driveway, the way our house looked perfect from a distance but fell apart under close inspection. I sat with the flash drive in one hand and Jenna's journal in the other, trying to decide which one would kill me faster. The drive felt colder. I didn't plug it in right away. Part of me believed once I opened it, there'd be no going back. Not just from her, but from the version of myself I'd been clinging to. The husband. The father. The man who thought knowing was better than not. I waited until the kids were at school, until Jenna left for groceries, though by then I didn't know what her errands really were, or if she even remembered to keep up the lie. Alone in the house, I slid the flash drive into my laptop and clicked open the single folder. Foxden. Inside, 6 video files. 3 PDFs. 1 audio file. All dated months ago. I opened the videos first. Each one was grainy, black and white, clearly from some corner-mounted camera in the house I'd grown so disturbingly familiar with. Different people. Different weekends. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3. Always faces I didn't recognize. Most blurred from odd angles. No audio. But it wasn't the guests that unnerved me. It was the way Jenna moved through those scenes. Serving drinks. Adjusting pillows. Lighting candles. Her smile perfectly calibrated, warm, but practiced. She was performing hospitality, but not for ratings. For him. For James. He was there too. Always watching. Always just outside the frame, or passing by with a casual touch on her waist. In the 3rd video, she was the one handing over an envelope. Cash. The guest nodded. Slipped it into his jacket. Whatever this was, it wasn't about passion. It wasn't even about escape. It was a business. I opened one of the PDFs. It was a guest log. Dozens of entries. Codenames. Check-in times. Preferences. Not just requests like extra towels, real specifics. Camera angle 2 preferred. Leave lockbox open. She's aware of limits. Confirm before 9 p.m. Another PDF was titled Incident Protocol. I stopped breathing as I read it. The document detailed procedures for guest discomfort, unverified bookings, and interruption during sessions. Every line was written like a cold legal memo, signed at the bottom by James Calloway and Jenna Thorne. She signed it. That name, Thorne, was her maiden name, one she hadn't used since the day we married. The last file I opened was the audio. Just 1 minute, low quality. A woman's voice. Nervous. Shaky. He said it was private. He said no one would know. But she watched. The whole time. She didn't stop him. The silence that followed was heavier than the voice. I closed the laptop. Marcy was right. This wasn't just infidelity. It was something darker. A network. A mask of suburban peace stretched over a churning engine of profit and voyeurism. And Jenna had built it, not just followed it. She created the model. And she'd done it while sleeping next to me, kissing our children goodnight, laughing at birthday parties, complaining about PTO emails. That night, I waited. I didn't ask where she'd been when she walked in. I didn't confront her. I didn't show her the drive. Instead, I watched her. Really watched her. She moved through the kitchen with a grace I had stopped noticing. Poured a glass of water. Took off her shoes. Said nothing. She knew. And she was waiting for me to decide what kind of man I was going to be. You left the journal on purpose, I said finally. She didn't flinch. I thought you'd find it weeks ago, she said. Why leave it at all? She paused, then said something I'll never forget. Because I couldn't lie to you forever. But I wasn't brave enough to tell the truth. I nodded. The air between us hung brittle and sharp. Was it ever real? I asked. Us. Jenna looked tired. Not from guilt, from years. It was real until I disappeared inside it, she said. And you never noticed. That part hurt. Because it was true. The pain wasn't clean. It wasn't rage. It was years of shared breakfasts and tired hugs collapsing into a single moment of mutual failure. You could have asked for more, I said. I did, she said. Just not with words. That was it. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just the quiet death of a marriage. 2 days later, I mailed an anonymous package to a law enforcement contact I had from college, someone who owed me a favor. The flash drive. A short note. Investigate the Fox Den property. Active criminal activity. No names. No contact. I included James' full name. Left Jenna's out. I didn't do it for her. I did it because some of the women in those videos didn't look like they wanted to be there. 3 days later, unmarked cars rolled up to the property. Jenna saw the news before I did. She left that night without a word. No suitcase. Just a single bag and her car keys. The kids didn't ask where she went. Maybe they already knew, in the way children sense absence more clearly than presence. A week passed. Then 2. The investigation made local news, but no names were released. Only vague descriptions, a suspected consent gray zone operation involving unlicensed filming and off-platform rentals. James vanished. Jenna did, too. I didn't chase either of them. Instead, I found myself walking through the quiet spaces they left behind. The half-closed drawers. The perfume bottle still in the bathroom. A strand of her hair caught in Lily's old blanket. I filed for legal separation. Not out of spite, out of necessity. Because you can't rebuild on a fault line. In therapy, I told this story 3 different ways before I landed on the one that felt most honest. I think she wanted me to stop her, I said. And I didn't. The therapist nodded. Do you think you still would have, even if you knew everything? I thought about that for a long time. Then I said, no. I think I would have let her fall. I just wish I hadn't gone with her. The journal sits in a drawer now. I haven't opened it again. I don't need to. Not because I've healed, but because I understand now. Some betrayals don't come from malice. They come from rot, from hunger, from the long, slow quiet of 2 people forgetting how to see each other. We made a business of pretending, and in the end, it was too profitable to stop. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.